Welcome to today's webinar, Pathways to Success, Helping Students with College and Career Decisions. This fifth and last webinar in this series is titled Successful Paths to Hot Careers, Best Education and Perfect Jobs, Partnering with Business and Industry and Community Organizations, presented by Jeff Weld, Marylou Erlacher, Barb Tupper, and Megan Reynolds. My name is Greg Nagy, and I'm the Virtual Learning Community Manager from The Ohio State University, who provides technical support for the STEM Equity Pipeline Project. Before we start the presentation, I would like to go over some housekeeping items for this webinar. This webinar is scheduled to last roughly 1 hour and is being recorded in order to view this presentation in its entirety later. The recorded webinar will be available in the next few days on the stemequitypipeline.org website. As you've already found out, you'll be watching the presenter present slides through the Adobe Connect interface while listening to them talk over your computer speakers. All the participants' microphones have been automatically muted. You can access any of the links in the Web Links pod by clicking the link and then clicking the Browse To button to open the link in a different tab in your browser. You can also download the slides and the resources files from the Files pod. Click on the file you want to download and then click the Download Files button. This will open the file as a link in a different tab in your browser. The presenters will answer questions after the presentation. However, we can take questions at any time. This is how we take questions. At any time during the presentation, you may submit a question by typing your question in the chat pod at the bottom right of the Adobe Connect window. We will read and respond to these questions at the end of the presentation. I would like to start the webinar by introducing Freda Walker, Assistant Director of the STEM Equity Pipeline Project. Freda?
Good afternoon, and welcome to the fifth and final webinar in this series, Pathways to Success. These webinars highlight the latest research regarding career preparation and provide specific strategies that you can implement. Support for the webinar series is from the Minnesota Department of Education and the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities. They funded these webinars to inform all who have a role in helping students understand successful career paths to high skill, high wage, and high demand jobs. On their behalf, I welcome each of you and our 4 presenters. Additional funding is from the National Science Foundation provided to NAEP for the STEM Equity Pipeline 2.0. This and past webinars are archived on the stemequity.org website. The link to this webinar is in the lower left-hand box under Links. We are providing a certificate of completion. If you are from Minnesota, it will come from the Minnesota Department of Education, and if not, it will come from NAEP, the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity. Please remember to download the resources in the Files section. The webinar documents contain the links and the presenter's contact information. I encourage participants to use the chat function and to share with each other, to share any resources that they might have to support this webinar, and type your questions to the presenters. At the end of the presentation, I will read the question to the presenters so their answers can be recorded. Today's webinar is focused on partnering with business and industry and community organizations. Our 4 presenters will be introduced by their webinar lead, Jeff Weld. Jeff is Executive Director of the Iowa Governor's STEM Advisory Council and Associate Professor in Biology at the University of Northern Iowa, with a total of almost 30 years' experience in helping to construct successful career pathways for students in STEM. Jeff, you're on.
All right. Well, thank you, Freda. Thank you, NAEP. Great opportunity to share some of the partnering strategies that are going on here in Iowa that connect industry and education. We are 18 months into a state STEM Advisory Council program launched by our governor in the summer of 2011. It's brought together 40 of our state's leading thinkers to craft a public-private partnership that delivers quality STEM education to every learner across the state. We involve hundreds of supporting professionals to having arrived at this point, which I think is a great opportunity to profile some of the programming taking place in Iowa. And for that reason, I'm joined by two great innovators in the career STEM pathway space, Marylou and Barb at the Workplace Learning Connection, and Megan Reynolds coordinating a program called Real World Externships for teachers. Before I welcome these folks to the camera and the microphone, let me just do a little bit of a backstory. Some of these statistics will not surprise anybody viewing today, but when you think about hot careers, naturally we're going to promote the STEM fields, and by definition, hot career in our case having to do with burgeoning opportunities for potential employees, recession-proof occupations, the closest domain or fields for egalitarian opportunities, the best paying, which is depicted here on this slide. These are average salaries from a Georgetown University study, which will be archived in the resources for anybody that wants to follow up, but certainly engineers and pharmacists are comparatively well paid, and by this definition of hot, better average pay than social workers, theologians, counselors, although certainly we all recognize that those in their own ways are exceedingly hot careers for which we all depend on quality talent. But for the sake of today's conversation, salary factors in as one of the primary concerns defining a hot career. Down below that on the same slide, U.S. News has categorized the top 10 growth fields between now and 2020, and you'll note that 8 of 10 of them, depending on how you define these occupations, are STEM fields. So we've got this fantastic opportunity to, here in Iowa, and we're kind of microcosmic of a national condition of opportunity in the STEM fields for today's learners. So it's both an economic and I think a moral imperative that we all craft pathways to maximize opportunity for today's kids. And that said, I think a point of caution is that we're still essentially fighting the STEM battle, if you will, with one arm tied behind our backs. The proportion of women, of ethnic and racial minorities, citizens with disabilities in the STEM fields is far disproportionate to their numbers in the workplace in general and subpopulation numbers in society. So we've got a great deal of work to do to welcome all prospective STEM employees to these wonderful career opportunities in STEM. That said, I'm going to just kind of set the table for the sorts of things that go on to help pave career pathways with public and private partnerships, education and industry. These are depictions of a couple of educators in Iowa who have entered the workplace for exposures, and you'll see a smattering of examples there, job shadows and internships, career days. None of this would surprise any of us. Many of these are quite active in our states. I think we're all at a juncture where we're trying to identify best practices and models that can be replicated across states, across regions, across school districts. There's a fantastic report that I don't think shows up in my bibliography of resources that was put out by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce last year called The Case for Being Bold. And I recommend that it be a top drawer reading for everybody on the webinar, and that there's a number of recommendations that come from the U.S. Chamber that tie industry to schools. Recommendations that include things like rethinking the possibility of the adjunct instructor brought to a high school on contract from a local industry to teach a particular course in engineering or advanced mathematics or business functions or what have you. There are other recommendations in the case for being bold that include something that Iowa is working on, engaging STEM professionals and business professionals in the professional development of educators, bringing to bear the efficiencies that are legendary within industry that educators could stand to learn from. There are citizen school movements. I know in Massachusetts, California, New York, local engineers and scientists conducting career-based after-school programming with kids in schools. So there's a variety of models. I don't think any of this would surprise any of you. I think it's all targeted around the same call for action that our education system and the needs of industry are at something of an unprecedented disconnect. And when you consider the evolution of the school milieu as a comparative or a competitive atmosphere with neighboring schools, neighboring districts, neighboring regions, neighboring states, schools improve at an arithmetic pace in a competition that's generally localized. Compare that to the pace of evolution of the industry and business world, a global competition. They're not necessarily trying to compete with a manufacturer across town or across the border to the next state, competing on a global stage, which means exponential growth and improvement. And I think therein lies the disconnect. The pace of change is not matched well, and we have our cause for gathering today, strategies that help educators prepare learners for post-secondary career and advanced coursework study. Just one more cautionary note. The Georgetown study by Carnival et al. Estimates 2.4 million new STEM jobs available to today's students by the year 2018. What a remarkable opportunity. The next natural question is, who will fill those opportunities? Consider the statistics cited above from a STEM Connector publication that I cite in my resources. 1 million U.S. ninth graders, about 28% of them, attest to an interest in STEM. Still not quite the numbers I would prefer, but that's a robust talent pool from which to draw. Unfortunately, according to the STEM Connector study, more than half of ninth graders who express an interest in STEM changed their minds by graduation. That's a serious challenge, and we need to rethink a pathway that the longer learners persist, the less interested they become. And my graph down below, particularly troublesome, is the discrepancy between the expressed interest on the parts of boys and the expressed interest in STEM on the part of girls. Almost a 2-to-1 ratio. Again, a moral, economic imperative that we level this playing field and meet the STEM career opportunities of the future as an equal opportunity on the part of all American kids, all Iowa kids. So having set the stage, these two innovators are going to depict two of what I consider to be model programs that set the stage for drawing talent into the STEM workforce. I'm going to begin with Marylou and Barb and the Workplace Learning Connection, and we'll follow with Megan and Real World Externships. So let me at this moment invite Marylou to tell us all about Workplace Learning Connection.
Marylou, you need to unmute your microphone also.
Okay, is that better?
Yep, there you go.
Workplace Learning Connections is an intermediary organization that connects kids to career exploration. Let me move this up. Educators are asked to improve student achievement, and employers are asked to solve the looming employment shortages in these various areas, and civic leaders are asked to develop vibrant, diverse, and welcoming communities. And they want to work together on that. As the slide indicates, the idea is they want to work together. The problem is it's confusing and time-consuming for everyone, and the solution, at least in our region, is an intermediary, a broker or a matchmaker, someone that can be that central point of or single point of contact. The Workplace Learning Connections' main thing is to make meaningful connections. We help students become better informed and better prepared for life and learning beyond high school. We allow educators to focus on their main thing, which is facilitating student learning, and we allow employers to do their main thing by providing services or producing goods while still being a good community member. Workplace Learning Connection is a tool for career development, future workforce development, and economic development. In 1997-98, regional partners throughout our 7-county area, utilizing school to work, tech prep, and other local funds, developed a model for regional work-based learning system. The hope was that it could be replicated in concept throughout Iowa if it demonstrated an equitable service delivery plan, a viable sustainability plan, and data supporting the return on investment. So what is it we do? We provide elementary, middle school, and high school programming, age-appropriate, high quality, and we also provide professional development opportunities for teachers. We'll touch a little bit more on this. But in terms of what we provide for the students, it's what people do every day in their jobs. How they use school skills every day. I may be the fireman, but how do I use math? How do I use communication skills? What does that look like? And then also critical employability skills such as attendance, teamwork, listening, following directions. The things that make students good students also make adults good employees. By the end of 8th grade, all Iowa students have completed a 4-year academic and career plan. Of course, it's going to change from year to year because kids do change their minds, but it at least gives them an idea that the reason they're in high school is to plan for a future beyond high school, beyond post-secondary. And it's modified, of course, modified throughout their high school experience. It's important to give them broad exposure to pathways and to help them look at their skills and their interests as they think about a career. So exactly what we do is we provide events. Those are foundational to the work that we do. It could be tours, it could be classroom speakers, all of it's hands-on, and Barb will cover events in just a minute, specifically as they relate to our STEM careers. The second thing at the high school level is job shadows, and these are typically observation only, a day in the life. The student chooses a career area and then participates either in a group or an individual job shadow. The group one's offering an opportunity to see a range of careers in a field, for example, a health science day. Internships are in-depth career exploration experiences. They range from 40 to 90 hours on site and include career development meetings. There are processes for applying, interviewing, and then ultimately placement within a career field. It's a high school elective included in their program of studies, so they all receive high school elective credit. Some industries do pay a stipend as well. The real benefit to the student, besides having an opportunity to try a career for a period of time, is that there's some employment opportunities. By building these relationships early, about 40% of the kids are given some kind of an entry-level summer job position type thing. Scholarships, letters of recommendations are also benefits. Workplace Learning Connections staff are an extension of the school staff through our school liaisons. We provide administrative support for planning, comprehensive school improvement, and in-service. And the credit-bearing professional development activities are in partnership with what we call Grantwood Area Education Agency, which is a regional education support program. Another question is, how is all this supported? We are sustained through diverse funding. Initially, we had school to work grant money and additional funds, and as that ended, that was a 2-year full funded opportunity. An important feature of Workplace Learning Connections sustainability planning was that all stakeholders would pay to sustain the service. A continuation of the programming was not assumed to be a right. My belief was that if it was valued, people would fund it. So sustainability comes with planning, building relationships to meet needs, and the quality of the services and the delivery of those services. So since 2000 funding, we moved from a $150,000 budget in 1998 to a $512,000 budget in 2013. If you look at the graph, the pie chart, you'll see that our funding is nearly equal in quarters. One quarter comes from our founding partners, Kirkwood Community College and Grantwood AEA. Another quarter comes from our K-12 partners. They pay a fee per service, a fee per student for services to their district. Employer contributions, grants, and County Board of Supervisor economic development funds make up another quarter. And then we do receive some state and federal dollars, such as Carl Perkins funds and also state economic development funds, and those are through Kirkwood Community College. As of 2011, we became a department at Kirkwood Community College, which has been a benefit to us as well. So all stakeholder groups contribute to our sustainability. In terms of return on investment, while education talks about, we want to ask, does it matter what we do and does it work? Educators talk about the new 3 R's, rigor, relevance, and relationship. But I believe employers are facing their own new 3 R's, and that's retirements, recruitment, and retention. So in building relationships now with the workforce of tomorrow encourages connections among school and work and local opportunities, and also invigorates the current workforce. In 2015, the Iowa legislature created a policy framework and a fund to enable the development of a statewide peer intermediary network. This fulfilled the original charge to develop a replicable model for the state, highlighting accessibility, sustainability, and results. I'm now going to turn the floor over to Barb to talk about what these services look like specifically in STEM activities.
Thank you, Marylou. Good afternoon, everybody. As Marylou said, my name is Barb Tupper, and I am one of several program coordinators who works with our school districts and hundreds of business professionals to make sure that our work can happen. As you can see from this slide, we do work with 33 different school districts in 7 counties. This slide shows just some STEM impact that we have had, but it's important to note that we help students make connections and explore careers in all pathways. The focus again today is on the STEM impact. Within those 33 school districts, last year we saw 115 academic internships that were STEM related, 879 job shadows, and 314 event speakers or tours for over 1,300 student STEM connections. So we make those happen through all of our programs, as you can see, and we're actually seeing an increase in that from year to year. Of all of our academic internships that you see, of these 115, that was about half of all of the internships that were done within that year. So we are making some great impacts for STEM. This slide is full of information, but we thought it might be a good way for you to kind of see one of the things that we do. Marylou talked about our internship and job shadow programs. I want to give you an example of a couple of our events. This slide describes the typical STEM program and is used to communicate our goals and presentation ideas to our business partners. You'll notice the emphasis on hands-on activities and talking through students through processes so that they can make those connections. They can make connections between the interests that they have. They can make connections between what they're doing in school, what they're learning in school, so that they can help make career choices that much better. We want kids to get excited about STEM, and they get excited when they see those demonstrations by our local companies about how they're using chemistry and how they're using science in their daily work. This slide, the next 2 slides kind of give a very specific idea of how we do our work. This particular one is the 6th grade STEM day. It's just an example of a schedule. As you can see, really all of what we do is a lot of math. We try to keep our groups at a very good size of about 15 kids. So we work backwards from that to figure out how many speakers we need, and the schools give us the time frames that they have to work within for their particular program. So this particular speaker day required 22 speakers, of which we went out and found, so that they could speak to students about their science-related, technology-related, engineering and mathematics-related careers. Many times we'll have speakers speak back to back so that they can make the most out of their time out of the office. So you'll see that a speaker might be speaking from 8:15 to 9:25, but only 20 minutes at a time. For 6th grade, that seems an ideal time frame. High school tends to be a little longer, 30 to 40 minutes per speaker. Our job is to make sure all this logistics happens, and we work closely with school contacts to ensure that they have adequate rooms, equipment, and to make sure that the
Looks like we lost Barb and Mary Lou. They were having some storms earlier.
I wonder
They're
if
still
I
having
dare finish up for them.
So they should be back on momentarily. I don't know if you know where they were at, Jeff, or if you want to hold on.
Yeah, I dare to advance Mary Lou and Barb's slide for them. I think the next slide depicts a typical program, tour information, logistical arrangements, and I'm really not well equipped to speak on their behalf, but I do anticipate that they will return for a Q&A. We're at the latter end of their slideshow, so I'm going to skip one more, and I think I move into the second program to be profiled here. And Mary Lou and Barb, if you're watching, please forgive me for advancing through your wonderful slides of visual. Do we have Barb?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we have audio.
Hi, sorry about that.
Barb, we advanced to your image slide. Any closing remarks?
Hey, here I am.
Yay.
Sorry about that. Yes. Whoa. Okay. This particular slide is an example of a tour day that we might put together. Again, just to give you an idea of the logistics that we do. And basically, bottom line is that we are the extension of their staff. So because of what we do, teachers can do what they do, and that is teach, rather than have to worry about all of these details of how to get kids to Hall and Hall engineers and then to OPN architects for those tour experiences. So we are excited to be an extension of that staff and being able to make some of these great pictures happen so that students can make those connections and can make good decisions. We do a lot of work in the middle schools because we know that that's really a place where students start to make some decisions and have some big stereotypes about their stereotypes develop about what they can and can't do, and a lot of times surrounding whether they're male or female. So we're really happy to be a part of this this opportunity for students to get STEM and other career experiences.
Well,
I'm going to turn it over to Megan Reynolds at this point.
Or Jeff. Hold on, Megan. Yeah, let me give her a suitable introduction. And I want to thank Barb and Mary Lou. I think we'll have time for Q&A, at which time I think folks will be very interested in something we're both aspiring to do, which is to grow this remarkable resource to every region of the state of Iowa. It's a very stormy day in our state, and I think stray electrons from some lightning might have disrupted your signal. Thanks for persisting, Barb and Mary Lou. I'm going to give a quick introduction to Megan Reynolds, because in reality, this program, Real World Externships, was partially informed by the Workplace Learning Connections model. It's also been informed by a somewhat comparable program at Vermeer Corporation, another at Eli Lilly in Indiana, the TWIST program at 3M in Minnesota, a Southern California externships program that Megan can speak with more authority than I. It is an NSF-funded program through the iTest program, Innovative Technology Experiences for Students and Teachers, and one of the hottest things going in my mind with regard to equipping teachers to convey to kids hot fields and establishing great partnerships with industry. So with that, I'm going to advance a slide and minimize myself and welcome.
All right, thank you, Jeff, and for this opportunity to share about this great program. The Real World Externships, it was launched in 2009 with the idea of providing Iowa's STEM teachers with the exposure to see how their content, what they're teaching in the classroom, is being applied in local business and industries and organizations right in their town. It was started, as I said, in 2009 with a small pilot cohort of 10 teachers and has blossomed into a what we had last year, 56 teachers. So we've provided over 150 teacher experiences in the past 4 years, and we're gearing up for another round this summer. Had over 50 business partners. So as we can infer from the numbers, many of our partnering businesses, I would say most, return the following year to continue to be a partner with the program. And the big picture of the Real World Externships is by getting the teachers in these workplaces, they have the tools to go back to the classroom and answer the questions that the students have of when am I ever going to need this. And so by starting in the classroom, student internships, this program is unique because while student internships, they can get that information, we can't get every student in an internship. So by targeting the teachers and impacting their point of view, the effect can then be exponential, and they can then inspire every one of their students year after year. And again, so by starting in the classroom, we then year after year enhance the STEM employment pipeline. Moving into the goals of the program. Again, giving our teachers this real-world career information. So by increasing their awareness of how what they're teaching in the classroom is applied in business and industries, they can give their students real-world career info, so the students can start thinking about that, get those wheels churning, and seeing how they can use this information in the future. And then, of course, bringing relevance back to the classroom, and not only with their content, but with the 21st century skills that also need emphasized, that they also see in the workplace. As far as with the business and schools, we want to enhance and then further build the business school partnerships within local communities. And then, of course, encouraging students towards these STEM-related futures by seeing how it is relevant in the classroom. And I threw in a couple pictures of some of our teachers at their externships. In that previous slide, we had a biology teacher. I can go back and show you. That is a biology teacher at Monsanto. She worked in their genotyping lab, and she and another extern who worked at Monsanto, they're one of the perfect experiences where just last week she brought her students into the Monsanto lab so the students could see firsthand how the chemistry that they're learning in class and the biology is used by the professionals, and they got to see it in those Monsanto labs. And then on this slide is Nick. He got to work at a biodiesel plant in Iowa. He's a chemistry teacher, which had many very direct applications to his classroom. Many benefits that are very obvious to this program, going from the top down to the businesses. The projects that they have these teachers doing can be very high level and really save the businesses a great deal of money. We've had some businesses that their teacher externs did what they quoted, $30,000 contractors to do, but our teacher externs managed to perform for them. Because these businesses are getting professionals that have a unique point of view and unique contributions to these businesses, not only with their content, with their efficiency. And it's really fun when these businesses learn just how efficient teachers are and have to be. I mean, teachers have 20-minute lunch, and they manage to eat their lunch and grade half their grading and plan their next classes, and that's the life of a teacher. And so it really builds that respect on the business and for these teachers in their community. And the businesses also really do appreciate the fact that they are helping to impact the classrooms and the students in those classrooms and building that STEM literate community, because ultimately that affects their future workforce. And as far as the teachers, by giving this exposure, they get a better idea of what their students need to be STEM-ready graduates. They gain that sense of content skills and employability skills that their students need to be part of this future workforce. And then, of course, the ultimate benefactors are our students of Iowa. By inspiring the teachers, we want to inspire the students. And with this real-world exposure and this magnified impact. And this picture here is Mecca. She's a biology teacher. She worked at a nature center doing watershed studies and testing. And I believe her class actually went back throughout the fall and continued to test that watershed. So to give you a brief idea of the mechanics of the whole program, the actual externships themselves in that green box, they're 8-hour days, so it's a full-time work day for 5 to 6 weeks, and the teachers earn up to $4,500 stipend, and they can get 1 or 2 graduate credit. They get a graduate credit for completing the actual externship. And during that externship, we have them maintain an online blog where they can reflect with not only their program mentors, who are program staff that help them throughout this experience, but also with the other teachers that are doing the program to see how they're connecting it back to the classroom. Aside from that, throughout the year, it really starts back in the fall to make the summer externships happen, as far as identifying our host partners, and then moving on to identifying a project for the teachers that teachers can then apply for, and we make those matches between teacher and business. And as far as locking in business partners, like I said, most of our past business partners, it's a no question, yes, sign me up for next year. And it's bringing on new businesses. We do that. That's kind of a year-round process, and to getting through to them the benefits that it can provide for them as a business. And also, as far as the business support, I'm learning that really now is the time to, when fiscal years are starting, to work the externships into our business partners' yearly plans and yearly budget, so we can be a self-sustaining program. And we do perform evaluation on the program with both the teachers, businesses, and students. Feedback from the teachers, both quantitative and qualitative. On the surveys we give them, very high percentages report that their teaching has improved and they can better prepare their students for their future careers in STEM. And qualitatively, I always hear back from teachers not just how they can use their content, but realizing they've got to be working with their students to know how to collaborate, because those, our John Deere engineers are collaborating every day. And also the technology. I'd say half of our teachers say, I've got to teach my students how to use Excel more and more, and how to know how to use it at advanced levels. So those types of skills that really affect their classroom. And as far as the businesses, they do report cost savings on the completed projects. And then, like I said previously, teacher and student benefit are very valuable to the businesses. There are a couple quotes there on that slide of what our teachers and businesses have reported back. And then ultimately, what we want is the student impact, which is an ongoing evaluation process we ultimately want to build STEM interest, and with the goal of maintaining that interest so students can see those pathways into STEM careers. So on that note, I'm going to let Jeff add on to whatever he would like about the program.
Whatever I would like. All right. Well, you know, I will say, well done, Megan. A nice depiction of a great project. This was actually named one of the top professional development programs in the country by the Carnegie Foundation's Opportunity Equation in 2011. So we were very honored by that. You know, my favorite aspect of the project, and then we'll move on to some Q&A, is what it leaves behind. Unlike teacher researchers, for example, I experienced as a teacher, and then I conducted as an academic at a university, bringing teachers to the research lab in the summer at our universities. A very popular experience, research experiences for teachers. RET is a common NSF program. But this takes it a notch further in that these are local partnerships. Teachers do not leave their hometown to participate in these programs. They're crossing the street to the Procter & Gamble, the Diamond Vogel, or the ConAg, or the Principal Financial, or the John Deere nearby. And so permanent relationships are established by which plant managers and engineers cross the street to the school for guest speaking or co-teaching. Teachers and students cross the street for tours. And so I think at the surface, insignificant aspect, which has turned out to be quite significant, is the proximity of the teachers to the industry where they're spending their summers. Now, I'm going to presume that everybody on the webinar would share an interest in these three key questions on the slide that shows now. Beneficial ways to go about establishing a partnership. We've touched upon it. Keeping partnership momentum going. Again, we've brushed up against it, but I'm going to invite Marylou and Barb and Megan to get more purposeful with that. And then strategically managing the relationships, including such things as territories and turf that we know emerge in all of our professional engagements. So I'm going to suggest that Marylou, Barb, and Megan each have your microphones on. And in fact, we can share the camera view too if you'd like. And I'm going to go around the horn, as it were, asking each of you to comment on each of these checks. And I may round out some commentary on each one as we go. So, for example, I see a robust chat taking place down below that involves Marylou and establishing partnerships. So, Bob, Marylou, let me pause and invite you to comment on that first check. Ways that you go about establishing the partnerships, and then to Megan, and then I'll round it out, and we'll go to question 2. Marylou?
Jeff, we just lost them. I'm just getting them back in, so they may have missed that last few sentences you said.
Maybe we should start with Megan. Megan, any comments? You talked just a little bit about recruiting business as a year-round endeavor. Why don't you take us through a little bit of the process of establishing new partners?
As far as establishing new partners, and I'm going to let you add on to this as well, since you're a very significant part of that, the key is, I would say, businesses want to know when we call them and say, here, this program exists, that it's a partnership between the local schools and the businesses, and they want to know what kind of things the teachers can do, both in general and at specific businesses like their own, and of course, the benefits to everyone involved. And I found that really emphasizing the ultimate beneficiaries being the students, that really does hit home with the businesses, because they know that's their future workforce that we are helping to build. And you can add on more about adding on our partnerships.
Sure, I will. Let me pause first and see if we have Marylou and Barb to comment on that first question. Marylou, ways that you go about establishing partnerships.
Microphone, Mary Lou.
Jeff, can you hear me now?
You're on.
Okay. Can you restate the question for me? I'm sorry.
I'm hoping that I'm speaking for everybody on the webinar that would welcome some insight in terms of how you establish new partnerships between businesses and schools.
Okay. Yeah. Because we've been in existence for about 15 years, it's really much easier right now. We have a lot of work that we do, marketing what we do. We have 2 women that do a tremendous amount of work with PR and marketing so that we get lots of information, the newspaper and that type of thing. But basically, when we're going out to find a new business, we look at what the students are interested in, and then we go out and we solicit that business. Very similar to what Megan was talking about. The businesses are happy to know that we're working with the students. We try and regionalize it to the county. So we work with 7 counties. So some of the rural counties really are looking at keeping their students local. So we try and find as many opportunities locally as we can, and the businesses are more than happy to work with us. Some of the information Barb shared shows exactly the process that we go through with them, so we try not to leave them hanging out on their own. We try and give them as many pointers for a successful opportunity for the students as we can. But we work with service groups, we work with chambers of commerce. Some of our best partners are economic developers in the counties. They will walk us in the door of a business and get us introduced and get the process started.
Well, thank you. I will simply round out that through our experience with the Governor's STEM Advisory Council and as a lifelong academic, I've come to learn about the culture of business and industry, a distinctly different culture from that of education. And I think the biological term symbiosis comes to mind. There has to be a mutual benefit, a win-win between a school partner and an industry partner. Industry, every last business representative I've ever met wants to help schools, but they also need to help their bottom line. And so one of the framings that we try to be pronounced about is that taking in a teacher, taking in student interns, or engaging in STEM activities of other sorts will help save the money, help infuse the STEM talent pipeline, and it becomes a symbiotic win-win. The ability for educators to look through the lens of business and vice versa. The talented business and industry representatives who can look through the lens of schooling are really at a distinct advantage in hammering out successful partnerships. Let's go to the second question, starting with Mary Lou, if you will. How do you keep the momentum going, as we're all quite well aware of innovations that spring up and then peter out for lack of sustenance? How do you keep the momentum going, Mary Lou?
That hasn't been a problem. We have lots of requests for services. One of the things we try and do, for example, there was in our southern region around Iowa City, there were 6 different middle school STEM requests. So our school liaison, business liaison in that area pulled it all together and created a STEM expo and held it in a large place, and the kids were divided into teams based on the names from the periodic table of elements, and everything kind of fed into it. So we try and stay abreast of what the Iowa legislature is doing too. So we look at the Common Core, the Iowa Core, and try and make sure that what we are offering for students and teachers helps them meet lots of their goals, because the last thing they need is one more thing on top of it. So our problem is really keeping a lid on what we offer so that we can keep the quality high and have the capacity to do the work. So I think there's many more things that schools would probably want, and we keep trying to have to weigh and see where the real benefit is, and if there's a way we can do it better and more efficiently.
Thank you. Megan, how about a perspective from externships? How to maintain the momentum once you've placed a teacher and they've enjoyed a summer in industry?
Well, I think definitely just keeping with our existing partners, one of the benefits about partnering with the program is we do publicize their involvement and their support of STEM in the state. So we do continually promote their partnership and our appreciation for that partnership. And also the evaluation aspect is important to the our partners, and that they can see it's having an effect past the last day of the externship, that next fall when we're seeing the impact in their classrooms, that they know their participation meant something not only to the teacher but to the students in those teachers' classrooms. And let's see, just kind of keeping the externships in the back of their mind and keeping us in their long-term planning, so they, when it is December and they can project, hey, I'm going to have this project in the summer, I can have one of those terrific teacher externs help us out on that, which I think is helpful.
Yeah, well said. You've taken the words right out of my mouth. We're on the same page. It's ironic at first blush when people think about maintaining momentum, and the secret to that being quality assessment. But really, I totally agree with you that by assessing a program continuously, formatively, summatively, you identify potential weaknesses that need to be patched in real time. Obviously, in a program that merges teachers and industry, monitoring the situation, facilitating the exchange enables program managers like Megan to patch weaknesses in real time. The last thing we need is for a business partner or a school leader to leave with a sour taste. That's not sustainable model. So adjusting on the fly, I think, as a result of good assessment, is a key to momentum. And to echo Megan's point, proclaiming successes, another part of assessment at the end of a summer, at the end of an academic year, when the teachers and the students and the business partners have endured their interviews and their surveys and their artifact production, to be able to declare a success and the degrees of success is good for everybody. The business folks want to hear that taking in this teacher had specific and tangible impact on the teacher's practices at school, on the interests and abilities of the kids whose teachers participated. So proclaiming those successes, monitoring as we go, assessment, in our minds, the key to maintaining momentum. So one last question comes out of our world, unless Freda or Greg sees something coming from a participant, and that is strategically managing the relationships. Marylou, you have a lot of moving parts there in the Cedar Rapids region. Have you encountered challenges regarding turf and territory and collegiality?
Yes, I think anytime you start an initiative, there's no way that you can know all the other people that are perhaps doing something similar. So I think, in fact, in the beginning, all the schools had their own school to work coordinators. So it was, in the beginning, trying to help them see that we could make the process more efficient and higher quality if we work together. So, for example, we do a financial literacy fair that's part of the Iowa core curriculum, and it was one of our business partners really felt strongly if we could find a financial literacy program for middle school kids, they would sponsor it. So because there is a career component to that as well, we took that on. Junior Achievement has a strong financial literacy program as well. So while our program has a curriculum, schools can choose between our curriculum, the JA curriculum, and then JA helps us with volunteers. They help staff the actual capstone event, which is the financial literacy fair. I'm going to see if Barb has any other. She has led that effort last year for our large metro area, if she has any other comments. But I think that helped. You know, you're always going to have some turf issues, but I think if you look for common ground, you can find a way through it, especially if you remember that the focus is the child.
Yeah, Marylou, you said it well. It is a great partnership with Junior Achievement, and I think it's a great example of how you can be collegial and benefit the kids. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Megan, any encounters with territoriality, turf challenges, and externships?
Well, I'll approach this from two different point of views. In the broad sense, as a professional development program, it is a very unique program in the sense that we come from the approach of business industry partnerships. There are many wonderful professional development programs in this state that we certainly don't want to compete for. It just kind of depends upon the experience that the teachers are looking for. And then on the more micro level, managing the relationships of the actual businesses, our partners. I'll give a shout out to our program mentors that are very critical in this process. We have 5 program mentors around the state that work with the teacher extern and the extern hosts during the summer leading up to the experience during to make it the best experience possible. And so in those different regions around the state, that really zones in on managing the host-teacher relationship. But again, back at the broad sense, there isn't a lot of competition since we are such a unique program, which is a nice problem to not have.
Well said, and if I may presume to surmise, for Marylou, Barb, and Megan, the best solution to territoriality and turf battles is inclusivity. Make sure all the players are at the table, teachers, administrators, industry leaders, elected officials, nonprofit representatives, informal educators. The phrase, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, is something that sticks in my head, and keeping off that menu is the secret to long-term partnerships, honoring the strength of everybody at the table. So with that, speaking for Marylou and Barb and Megan, I'm pointing out some reading that I'm going to skip because it's actually in the resources segment of the screen, and go to thank yous. It's been a great privilege to speak to you all, and of course I avail myself, and I'm sure it'll be true of Marylou, Barb, and Megan, to anybody with follow-up questions or interests. Marylou, Barb, Megan, any last words for the good of the cause?
No, I don't think so.
Freda, any questions to entertain, or are we out of time?
Just a second. We're not out of time, and we do have one other question that's come up, Jeff, and that is, we had a question is, what is the cost savings that is realized, and who gets the cost savings? So could one of you address that?
I'd be happy to talk through a point Megan made and elaborate on it. The business sector, taking in a teacher, saves thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, sometimes 6 figures in the expertise the teacher brings to the industry. You're looking at a slide now of a teacher at a robotics manufacturing plant. We had an advanced manufacturer attest to savings in the $30,000s of dollars range because a teacher spent 6 weeks of summer solving them a problem that would have cost them that much in a consultancy. We have a hospital that claims a teacher saves 6 figures in inventory costs thanks to this mathematics teacher's algorithms on inventorying. So there's great cost savings to the business, and that's part of how we sell the program. Marylou, any thoughts on costs and savings?
Yeah, St. Luke's Hospital here in Cedar Rapids over time has hired 29% of their high school student interns as fully post-secondary trained adult workers. So they think the savings is great. It's kind of try it before you buy it. With these, especially with the intern program, they have an opportunity to meet the kids, see how they fit the culture of the organization, and recruiting costs are high. So it's a retention strategy as well as a recruitment strategy. So our business hosts give us lots of time, and I can't imagine that they would be doing that if it wasn't working for them.
Mary Lou, I had,
Yes.
are there cost savings that come to the district because you have the intermediary, you know, that you all are able to provide services to the district?
Yes. Instead of, for example, the highest charge that our districts are pay us based on the population of their district. So a small district pays less and a large district pays more. Cedar Rapids Schools pays the most, and it's about $38,000, and they get our staff of 12. For that $38,000, we serve all of their schools rather than each school or even the district having 1, 2, or 3 people to do that work. So that's why we tell them that we hope they view us as an extension of their staff, and it goes to our very smallest school that pays us about $600, but they all get the same level, the same number of services, and same level of service.
Thank you. We had another question that's come in. It says, do the industries hire teachers away from their teaching jobs?
Excellent question. We hear it all the time. The fear was a sincere and a legitimate one when setting up the program, but on the other hand, even from a moral perspective, that wouldn't be an appropriate rationale not to offer the program in the event that a teacher wants to jump ship to another opportunity. However, that said, I've been amazed to note that many of these industry partners have extended invitations to the teachers to continue the working relationship on a part-time basis, on weekends, during vacations. And I hear rumor that some of the teachers occasionally get offered a job. And although we coach the businesses, don't do that. It'll ruin the program, at least in the short term. Wait a year or two out before you make job offers. But teachers aren't taking them. The teachers report back that, yeah, they've seen industry. It was an eye-opening experience. It makes them a more relevant teacher, but they would not trade occupations. And that's been the case 100% of the time. Megan?
Yeah, I'll just add in on there that we've had multiple examples where the following summer after the externship, teachers are hired on as summer workers as a similar employee, similar to what they were doing in their externships the following summers. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. We've done questions. There are some other questions that were asked, but in the chat function they were answered. And generally I like to ask those questions because they get recorded for the other people that listen to the archived webinar. Mm-hmm. I know that we are a little bit over the time, but we still have quite a few people staying with us, so I think I'll go ahead and ask those. Mary Lou, you already gave us some tips about the building the relationships, and I'm just going to read your answer, or you can read your answer. Would you like to do that? Oh, okay. Relationship building is an ongoing process. Our staff positions include school and business liaisons. In the more rural counties, they are both. In the more metro areas, we have school liaisons and business liaisons by pathway. That enables us to really become known in the organizations. Okay, question number 2. What kind of agreements are signed between you and your partners? And Mary Lou's answer was that each district signs a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, for the year that outlines what each entity will do. WLC, district, and building administrators in our school contacts. The next question is, what is the fee per student the same? Is the fee per student the same for each K-12 district, small, large? And Mary Lou actually answered that question, but she also added that the fee is $3 per middle school student and $5 for each high school student for the total enrollment. We had a question that was, how do you connect the student's goal to post-secondary options as to which degree program they may want to participate in and graduate with that emphasis? The answer is that our community college has regional educational centers that house our concurrent credit career academic program, which give the students a head start on their education and their careers. It's a seamless system from the middle school to high school to a blended college experience. The work-based learning the work-based learning works to confirm and inform the career choice. Let's see, other questions. One other question was, how do students learn about the variety of degrees that are available for students to earn? And Marylou answers, the career academic programs all have planning tools that outline the various degrees at various educational levels available through the particular academic program. We encourage all of our hosts and our presenters to share the breadth of careers and education needed. So I think that takes care of all of our questions, and I'm going to go to the next slide just to say again thanks to Jeff and to Marylou and to Barb and to Megan, and also to the Minnesota Department of Education and the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities, to NAEP and the National Science Foundation. Please join our virtual learning community and view archive webinars at this particular website, which you can download from the links, the STEMequitypipeline.org. Next week, we have Professional Development Institute in the Washington, D.C. area. You can still register, and we'd love for you to join us. And thanks for participating in this webinar series. We look forward to your participation in future webinars. Remember that you can get a certificate of completion if you complete page 2 of the webinar survey. Just so you know that there are 2 pages to the survey that Greg will put up in just a second, and the first one is the evaluation, and the second one is the completion of the certification. And if those 2 pages are administered separately, so the evaluation surveys remain anonymous. Thanks for spending the hour with us, a little bit more than the hour, and have a good afternoon. And Greg, you're on.
Thank you, Freda. And thank you all for joining us today. Remember that this webinar will be available on the STEMequitypipeline.org website under the home page and also under the professional development heading, and under that under STEM Equity Pipeline Archive Webinars. They'll be available in the next few days. For the live webinar, I am going to right now put up a survey in your web browser. That should open right now in a separate tab in your web browser and also in the archived webinar. Please complete the survey for us now. You'll also be sent an email with the link for the survey in case you do not have time to fill it out right now. All right, thank you everyone, and that's the end of the survey. I'm sorry, the end of the webinar.